So buyer beware, there's a handful of things that you need to be aware of when buying a home here in Albuquerque. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the best ways to find value and some things that you need to avoid. Should you have an HOA? Are there structural issues that are specific to our climate? Well, if that's the information you're looking for, stay tuned because this is all about Albuquerque. Hey, it's Skip at Sold by Skip, and if it's your first time to the channel and you want to learn everything about Albuquerque, including what it's like to live here, work here, and play here, take a minute and just tap that subscribe button and then ring the little bell. That way you're notified every time we post a new video. Now, my team has been helping people from literally all over the world now buy and sell homes here in Albuquerque, and we look forward to connecting with you too. So give me a call or shoot me a text. In this video, I'm going to walk you through some things you need to be aware of when buying a home in Albuquerque. We're going to take a tour of a couple different neighborhoods. I'm going to show you one that's got an HOA, and then on the other side, I'm going to show you one that doesn't have an HOA, so you can see what the differences are. Now, a lot of times HOAs get a bad rap, and I can understand that if you live in a condo community, because sometimes the HOA fees are like $300 to $500 a month, and that pays for common area maintenance like swimming pools, stuff like that. But if you're living in a traditional neighborhood and there's not too many overhead costs, the HOA can be as minimal as 25 to like 50 bucks a month. The first time I bought a house in Albuquerque, it was in one of these affordable neighborhoods that didn't have an HOA. Now, I thought I was slick, I was gonna be saving some money, but lo and behold, like a year into living there, the neighborhood fell apart, jumping over garbage cans to get back into my house because they were parking cars in the front yard and lighting fireworks. Actually, okay, I'll be honest with you. I was lighting fireworks off in the middle of the night with a couple of my buddies because there's no HOA. There was no one there to blow the whistle or keep us in line. So if you don't want neighbors like me, I always recommend finding a home in a neighborhood where the neighbors are going to be respectful, and that's most likely going to be in an HOA. So one good example of a master plan community in Rio Rancho, and probably the best neighborhood you could be in Rio Rancho, is Cabazon. And this is a master plan community that has many different pockets. There's gated communities, affordable properties, plenty of pocket parks and walking trails, and just the quality of living in this neighborhood is why so many people like to buy property here in Cabazon. It's important to know when you're out shopping for homes, there's differences in neighborhoods, differences in quality. And if you're not familiar with Albuquerque or Rio Rancho, like what's the difference between an HOA community and just a regular community? Well, in an HOA community or master plan community, similar to the one we're in right now in Cabazon, what you're gonna find are gorgeous parks, green grasses, well-maintained landscaping, and the houses are all gonna have manicured front yards. There's not going to be neighbors parked on their parked in their front yards. There's not going to be garbage and stuff left behind. So you do pay a little bit extra for that added value, but what you get in return is just a clean neighborhood with values that are going to continue to rise or at least hold. So that's why I always recommend for neighborhoods that have HOAs, because the benefits far outweigh the small cost. Taking a closer look at this neighborhood, which was built in the same year, but there is no HOA, so you can see how it slowly deteriorates over time. Things to note, there are dumpsters knocked over, weeds everywhere, mismatched rocks, graffiti that's been painted over. There's driveways with 3 or more cars parked. There's cars parked in the front yard, and there's work trucks and all types of trailers. So the benefit of living in an HOA is that none of this stuff will essentially be in the neighborhood that has the HOA. So this is a visual difference. And look, $25 a month and your values are gonna stay solid. Your neighbors are gonna be held responsible for cleaning up after themselves. So we're out early this morning at a property we just got under contract here in the valley, and we're doing home inspections. So home inspections generally entail a termite inspection, a general structural inspection. We check all the systems, the plumbing, the heating, the cooling, the electrical, just to make sure you understand as a buyer what you're buying exactly. So we're here today with a termite guy who's crawling underneath the house to check for any dry rot or any evidence of wood destroying pests, as well as the home inspector who's crawling around on the roof, like I said, checking all the systems to make sure we understand as a buyer what we're getting into. Now keep in mind, if there are any issues that come up in your home inspection, it's important to note that properties are generally sold as is. And while you are well within your right to ask the seller to make some repairs or concessions, just understand that depending on what type of market you're in, the seller may opt to make those repairs or not. So we're doing another set of home inspections today on the west side of town, a little bit of a newer property. And what we find typically with some of these newer homes that structurally they're great, but they tend to have some issues with stucco failing. So that's one thing we're going to be looking for. And also these tile roofs tend to sometimes have some cracked tiles, which could lead to a leaky roof. Now, all in all, these homes have been very well built, especially when you're in a master plan community like this one. Now, the west side of town has a different set of circumstances when it comes to bugs and bug prevention. Now, wood-destroying pests require a certain level of humidity and moisture, which we don't really see on the west side of town. Now, in Albuquerque, our termites are ground nesting termites. And when your home is built on a solid foundation, a lot of times that keeps the termites at bay. And generally, termites require a higher level of humidity and moisture in the air and also the ground. And since we do have an arid climate, it's not too common to see terrible termite damage in this area. So aside from wood-destroying pests, one thing that you need to be aware of is sometimes we get pigeons. And the pigeons will crawl up and take refuge under the eaves of the house. And the problem with that is that their droppings are going to fall onto the stucco. And if you don't address that issue, the stucco will start to chip away. In these newer communities, one thing to note is that there's a propensity for getting field mice. Now, the reason for that is these new communities were built out in the fields where the mice were. So that forces them indoors. One thing we always want to check is behind the appliances, behind the dryers, warm places where mice could hang out. You always want to look for fresh droppings just to ensure they're not chewing on any wires or anything like that behind your appliances. And the good news is that your pest control company will actually come in before you move into the property and basically just drop a bomb on it. They'll gas the inside of the house to kill all the sugar ants, all the black widows, and any potential mice that could be hiding out. Now again, it's not a huge issue, and that's why it's important to have your home inspected for these pests and to have a good pest control company here in Albuquerque. When I bought a house my first time, it was a rental property, and I paid a little bit extra to do what's called a drain scope because the property was having an issue with drainage, right? It kept backing up into the toilets and the sink. They stick a camera down the drain line just to see if there's anything obstructing the drainage. And I'm glad I did. And it was actually a scene from a horror movie. You know, like when you go into an old haunted house and there's just like doll heads or like weird dolls in the attic? That's exactly what we found. This home was a rental property previously, and it had a child who was flushing toys down the toilet. And I'll never forget when the camera went through, all of a sudden it illuminated on this face of this doll head that had been severed and stuffed down the toilet. And that was the issue that we were having, that was causing all the backup. Now, it was an easy fix. We just kind of jet washed the drain out and the drainage was fine after that. But you never know what you're gonna find, which is why it's so important to get that inspection. We're covering a lot of ground today, so if you find this video informative, do me a favor and just tap that like button. It really helps us out. We're actually looking at properties in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho today. And I want to introduce you to Kevin and Nicole. Now, they've got a great story in the fact that we had to get their home sold in Boston, get them out here for the weekend with some pretty strict time limits. But either way, I wanted them to tell their story and just kind of get their opinion on what this whole process has been like experiencing Albuquerque, working with our team.
So we discovered Skip through YouTube, and I gotta tell you, we subscribe and we follow it. The new one comes, we watch it every week because it's an honest view. It's different parts of the town and the city, and I think it just gives you a good picture of what you're coming for.
It's a little slower pace than Boston is. It's what we're looking for. Everyone's very kind. You can talk to anyone. So far we're just enjoying it and loving it.
I'll put it this way, I want space, I want to breathe, I don't want to be on top of people. And it's a little quieter out here. The style of housing out here is what we want. You know, it's closer to, you know, it's not hustle and bustle when we're getting older, so we don't really need that as much. And I like the slower pace, I call it sauntering. I want to find my sauntering speed.
Seems to be a lot of nature trails, a lot of hiking, a lot of outdoor activities, which we're looking forward to enjoying.
And do your homework. Research, you know, figure out the locations, talk to a realtor, hopefully you trust them. That's what we did, and it's been very stress-free so far. I mean, I would say education-wise, coming out here is come out with a reality. Don't expect to wheel and deal, especially in this market. You know, you got to come out knowing what you're going to do, plan for that accordingly, figure out your numbers and stuff ahead of time and things like that. And Skip and the team, I would recommend them hands down to anybody. They pay attention, they listen, they see what you're sending them for houses and links, and they're getting a feel. And everything we've gotten from them since we've been here for touring has just been spot on in our wheelhouse, what we're looking for, and you know, I can't recommend it enough.
Again, friends, if you're thinking about making that move to, in, or around Albuquerque, be sure to reach out. Give me a call or shoot me a text, and I'm happy to show you our city personally. Wait! Before you leave, I want to share another video I think you might find informative by clicking up here. And lastly, friends, don't forget to subscribe here by clicking this link to stay up to date with future videos. As always, visit soldbyskip.com for a free list of homes priced to sell. Thanks for watching.